Elena Marquez had only planned a quiet Saturday at Riverside Mall. She walked in with her purse on her shoulder, thinking only about the silver necklace she wanted to buy for her niece's birthday. The mall was alive with voices, footsteps, and the smell of pretzels from the food court. To most people, she was just another woman shopping. But to the wrong eyes, she was something else. From the moment she entered, 2 security guards began trailing her steps. They whispered into their radios, their stares heavy, as if her very presence was a crime. Elena noticed their shadows, following her in the glass reflections of the storefronts. She had been watched before, but this time it felt different, closer, darker. Inside Sterling and Amp Co. Jewelry, the store manager's face tightened the moment Elena asked to see a bracelet. The woman's eyes kept flicking to her purse. The mall guards came in seconds later, surrounding her as if she was already guilty. Then a uniformed police officer pushed through the door. His badge gleamed, his voice loud, his tone sharp. "Ma'am, open your bag. Now." Heads turned. Shoppers stopped. Phones rose, recording. Elena stood still, her jaw set. She could already feel where this was heading, and yet she refused to bow her head. The cold grip of the officer's hand closed on her arm. The mall that was full of laughter a moment ago fell into silence. What none of them knew was that this woman wasn't just a shopper. She wasn't just another easy target. She was Captain Elena Marquez of the NYPD, a woman who had put criminals in handcuffs for over 20 years. And now she was the one being dragged away in them. Before we go any further, comment where in the world you are watching from and make sure to subscribe because tomorrow's story is one you don't want to miss. The officer's grip tightened around Elena Marquez's arm as if he was holding a criminal, not a woman who had simply stepped into a jewelry store. The crowd inside Sterling and Amp Co. Jewelry grew larger by the second. Some people whispered to each other, others pulled out their phones, eager to capture what they thought would be a thief caught red-handed. Elena kept her voice steady. "You're making a mistake," she said, calm but firm. "Open your bag now," the officer barked, ignoring her words. His nameplate read Dylan Vaughn. His eyes carried a mixture of arrogance and hunger, the kind of look Elena had seen many times in her career. The look of a man who enjoyed the power of making someone feel small. The store manager, Clara Mendoza, folded her arms and stepped closer. "I saw her slip something inside that purse," she announced, loud enough for everyone to hear. "She's been acting suspicious since she walked in." Elena turned toward Clara. Her jaw tightened, but she did not raise her voice. "That's not true. You showed me a bracelet, and I told you I wanted to buy it. That's the only thing I touched." Clara smirked and glanced at the guards who had followed Elena into the store. Grant Ellison and Adrian Torres. Both men stood tall, trying to look intimidating, though Adrian's eyes showed hesitation. Grant, however, looked eager to back up Clara's lie. "Let's make this easy," Grant said, stepping closer. "Put the bag on the counter." Elena straightened her back, standing taller. She had faced down armed suspects in dark alleys, sat across dangerous criminals in interrogation rooms, and commanded officers in tense standoffs. Yet here she was, being treated like a thief in front of strangers. The humiliation burned deep, but she forced herself to stay calm. "You have no right to search my purse without probable cause," she said clearly, her voice echoing through the store. Some of the shoppers shifted uncomfortably. A mother pulled her child closer. A teenage boy whispered, "She knows the law." But others shook their heads, muttering about how people should just comply. Officer Vaughn narrowed his eyes. "Don't play smart with me. If you don't cooperate, I'll arrest you right here." Elena felt her chest tighten, not with fear, but with anger. Still, she reminded herself anger would only feed their story. She glanced around. Cameras were mounted high on the boutique walls. "Why don't we check your security footage?" she suggested, turning to Clara. "It will show I didn't steal anything." Clara's confidence faltered. Her eyes flicked nervously toward the cameras, but she quickly recovered. The cameras don't always capture everything. Thieves know how to hide. "That's enough," Vaughn cut in. He yanked at Elena's arm. "Hands behind your back." Gasps filled the boutique. Phones tilted higher, capturing every second. Elena's purse swung as Vaughn twisted her arms roughly. The metal of the cuffs bit into her wrists. The humiliation was sharp, heavier than the physical pain. She heard someone whisper, "She's probably guilty. Look how calm she is. That's how they act when they've done it before." Elena closed her eyes for a moment, drawing on the discipline that had carried her through 2 decades on the force. She would not break here. She would not give them the satisfaction. As Vaughn pushed her toward the door, she turned her head enough for her voice to carry. "This is harassment. You're targeting me because of how I look, not because of anything I've done." Her words hung heavy in the air. A few people lowered their phones, their expressions shifting from excitement to unease. Others shook their heads, unwilling to believe her. The mall outside Sterling's Jewelry was buzzing with weekend shoppers, but as Vaughn dragged her through the glass doors, everything slowed. The sound of shoes clicking on the polished floor, the chatter of families, the laughter of teenagers suddenly, it all went quiet as people noticed the scene. There she was, a well-dressed woman in handcuffs, her head held high, being paraded through the mall like a criminal. "Make way," Vaughn shouted, his voice dripping with authority. "Step aside, folks. Shoplifter coming through." Elena's cheeks burned, but not from shame. She felt the sting of injustice. She wanted to scream that she wasn't just some woman being pushed around. She was Captain Elena Marquez of the NYPD, a woman who had dedicated her life to protecting people, including some who now stared at her as if she was less than human. Her niece's face flashed in her mind. Sofia Marquez was only 15, bright and full of hope. Elena had promised her a special gift for her birthday. And now here she was. Instead of buying that gift, she was being dragged through a mall like a spectacle. By the time they reached the mall's center court, dozens of shoppers had stopped. The fountain gushed water behind her. Children holding cones of ice cream stopped mid-bite. Parents clutched their kids, and phones formed a forest of cameras pointed her way. She heard snippets of voices. Another thief caught, "Wait, she doesn't look like one." Record everything, disgusting, targeting her like that. Vaughn tightened his grip. "Keep moving." But Elena planted her feet. Her voice rose above the whispers. "Listen to me. I did not steal anything. You are all witnessing a false arrest. Every one of you, with a camera. Keep recording. Don't stop." Her words carried strength, cutting through the silence. A murmur spread across the crowd. Some nodded, some shifted uneasily. Vaughn shoved her forward, his face red with frustration. "Enough out of you." As they neared the mall exit, Elena caught sight of a young girl near the edge of the crowd, her phone raised high. The girl's face was determined, her hands steady. Elena locked eyes with her for a brief second. She didn't know it yet, but that girl, Marissa Cruz, would become one of the most important witnesses of this entire ordeal. Outside the glass doors, Vaughn's patrol car waited, its lights flashing. The reflection of those lights shimmered against the polished floor of Riverside Mall. Elena felt the cold metal bite into her wrists again, but she kept her chin up. "Before this goes any further," she said loudly, so the crowd could hear, "you should know something important." Vaughn sneered. "Save it for the station." Elena's voice was steady, deliberate. "I am Captain Elena Marquez, NYPD. My badge is in my pocket. You are arresting your own commanding officer." The crowd gasped. Phones tilted higher. Someone shouted, "She's a captain." Others murmured in disbelief. Vaughn froze for a moment. His arrogance wavered, but only for a second. He quickly masked it with a mocking laugh. "Sure you are," he scoffed, though his grip on her arm trembled slightly. "And I'm the police commissioner." He pushed her toward the car. "Get inside. Now." Elena's eyes swept the crowd. She knew what was at stake. This wasn't just about her anymore. It was about every person who had been humiliated, profiled, and silenced. She stood taller, even in cuffs, her voice carrying over the silence of Riverside Mall. "You're making the biggest mistake of your career." And with that, Vaughn shoved her into the back of the patrol car, the doors slamming shut as dozens of cameras continued to record the scene that was about to shake New York City. The slam of the patrol car door echoed in Elena Marquez's chest. Inside the back seat, the air smelled of stale leather and sweat. Her wrists ached from the cuffs, but it wasn't the pain that made her chest heavy. It was the silence of people watching outside, recording, whispering, and doing nothing to stop it. Officer Dylan Vaughn slid into the driver's seat, his smirk reflected in the rearview mirror. "You should have kept quiet," he muttered. Elena didn't answer. She turned her face toward the window, where the crowd at Riverside Mall was still pointing phones at the car. She locked eyes with a boy, no older than 12, who watched her with confusion. She wondered what story he would carry home. Would he believe she was guilty? Or would he remember how she held her head high, even in handcuffs? The car jolted forward, tires squealing as Vaughn pulled onto the busy Brooklyn streets. Elena's stomach tightened as the flashing lights reflected off storefronts and passing cars. People turned to look, pointing, some shaking their heads. Vaughn seemed to enjoy it. He pressed harder on the gas, eager to make the ride as rough as possible. Minutes later, the car screeched into the lot of the NYPD 75th Precinct. Vaughn dragged her out, gripping her arm tighter than necessary. Inside, officers at their desks looked up. Some raised eyebrows, others chuckled. To them, she wasn't Captain Elena Marquez. She was just another suspect being marched in. "Booking room," Vaughn barked, as if he owned the place. The officer behind the desk, Victor Salazar, gave a mocking smile. "Well, what do we have here?" He flipped through a clipboard, pretending not to recognize her. "Charges?" "Shoplifting. Resisting arrest," Vaughn said quickly. "Might add obstruction. She gave me a hard time." Elena's jaw tightened. She knew how this worked. Pile on the charges, make the victim look guilty, drown the truth in paperwork. She'd seen this tactic too many times, but she had never thought she would be the target. Salazar leaned on the desk, smirking. "Ma'am, place your belongings here." He pointed to a tray. Vaughn ripped her purse from her shoulder and tossed it down. They opened it roughly, digging through every pocket. Out came her wallet, her phone, her keys, and then the small black case that held her NYPD badge. Salazar froze for half a second. His smirk flickered. Vaughn shot him a warning look. Salazar quickly covered, holding the badge up like it was fake jewelry. "And what's this supposed to be?" "Halloween costume." Several officers chuckled. The humiliation was sharp, cutting deeper than the cuffs. Ilana looked at Salazar straight in the eye. "That is my badge." I am Captain Elena Marquez, 15 years with this department, 20 years in law enforcement, and you both know it." The room went silent for a heartbeat. Some officers shifted uncomfortably, whispering to each other. Vaughn broke the moment with a laugh. "She's delusional, impersonating an officer now, too. Add that to the list." Elena wanted to scream, but she forced herself to stay calm. Losing control would only feed their lies. "Instead," she said loudly, "every camera in this building is recording. Every officer here is a witness. When this is over, all of you will remember that I warned you." Vaughn ignored her and shoved her toward the fingerprint machine. The cold ink stained her fingers as Salazar pressed them roughly against the cards. The click of the camera followed, capturing her mugshot. Elena looked straight into the lens, her eyes steady. If this image was going to be plastered everywhere, she would not give them a broken expression. After processing, Vaughn led her to a holding cell. The metal bars clanged shut behind her. The concrete bench was hard and cold, but Elena sat down slowly, her back straight. Across the hall, other detainees stared at her. Some recognized her. A man muttered, "That's a cop." They got one of their own now. Elena closed her eyes briefly. She could almost hear her niece Sophia's voice, bright and innocent. "Auntie, did you get my necklace?" The thought twisted her chest. She had promised Sophia a day of joy, and instead she was trapped in a cage. Hours crawled by. The noise of officers' boots echoed through the halls. Papers shuffled. Phones rang. Elena stayed silent, counting every sound to keep her mind steady. She knew the system better than anyone. Vaughn was already writing his report, and in that report he would twist everything. Sure enough, later that evening, the cell door opened. An officer handed her a copy of Vaughn's report. The words hit her like blows. Suspect was aggressive from the start, refused to comply, attempted to strike officer, resisted lawful arrest. It was a lie. Every line of it. And worse, Salazar had signed as a witness. The pieces were falling into place, not just prejudice, but coordination. Vaughn wasn't acting alone. Her thoughts were broken by a familiar voice at the bars. Marcus Brown, a sergeant she had worked with for years, stood there, his face grim. "Elena, what happened?" Relief washed over her, but only for a moment. She saw the hesitation in his eyes. He already knew the official version of the story. "They're lying," she said simply. "You know me." "Marcus, I didn't steal anything. They profiled me. And now they're covering it up." Marcus lowered his voice. "I believe you, but this is bigger than just you." Vaughn filed fast, sent copies to Internal Affairs and the chief. "Word spreading that you assaulted him. It's bad, Elena." Her chest tightened. She had expected lies, but not this fast, not this coordinated. So what happens now? Marcus looked around to make sure no one was listening. "Internal Affairs will investigate. But you know how it goes. His report is the first record. It becomes the official story, even with videos. They'll say people only caught pieces, not the full context." Elena pressed her hands against the cold bars. "I can't let them bury this. Too many people saw it." Marcus hesitated again. "Be careful who you trust. Not everyone in this building is on your side. Some are protecting him. Some are scared to speak against him. Just watch your back." He walked away before she could respond. Hours later, the cell door opened again. "You're being released pending investigation," a desk officer muttered, handing her back her belongings. Vaughn was nowhere to be seen. Elena clicked her badge back into her jacket pocket, feeling its weight like both a shield and a curse. Outside, the night air of Brooklyn felt colder than usual. She pulled her coat tighter as she walked toward her car. Her phone buzzed nonstop news alerts, social media tags, messages. The video of her arrest had gone viral. The headlines made her stomach twist. Shoplifter resists arrest at Riverside Mall. Woman claims to be police captain during arrest.ypd reviewing incident involving suspect. They were already shaping the story, painting her as unstable, as if she was just another angry black woman refusing to comply. Elena unlocked her car and sat behind the wheel. Her hands trembled as she scrolled through her messages. Dozens of missed calls, but one text stood out. It was from her oldest friend, Camila Ortiz, a defense attorney who had stood by her through years of battles. I saw the video. Don't say anything. Don't post anything. Come to my office tomorrow. We'll talk. Elena exhaled slowly. At least she wasn't alone, but deep down, she knew what was coming. This was no simple misunderstanding. This was a fight for her name, her career, and her dignity. She started the car, the reflection of the precinct lights fading in her mirror. The city outside looked the same, Brooklyn streets alive with horns and neon lights, but everything inside her had changed. Tomorrow, the real battle would begin. The next morning, Elena Marquez walked into Ortiz and Amp, associates law firm in Manhattan. The glass doors reflected her tired face, the faint circles under her eyes, the weight of humiliation that still clung to her. She adjusted her jacket before stepping inside. She couldn't afford to look broken, not here, not anywhere. Camila Ortiz was waiting for her, already pacing the small conference room. Camilla's sharp suit was pressed perfectly, but her expression carried the same exhaustion Elena felt. The moment she saw her, Camilla pulled her into a hug. "I saw the videos," Camilla said quietly. "I saw everything." Elena sat down heavily, her voice low. "They turned me into a thief in front of the city. Vaughn wrote lies into his report, and Salazar backed him. If I didn't know better, I'd think they planned it." Camilla's eyes narrowed. "I wouldn't be surprised if they did. This isn't just bad policing, Elena. This feels coordinated." She slid a folder across the table. "Look at this." Inside were printed screenshots from social media, headlines, news clips, even comment threads. Most of them repeated Vaughn's report as if it was fact. Aggressive woman, resisting arrest, claims she's a police captain. The comments below were worse-mocking, racist, dismissive. "They're burying the truth under noise," Camilla explained. "And the faster they do it, the harder it will be to undo." Elena pressed her palms against the table. "So what's our move?" Before Camilla could answer, the door opened. A tall woman stepped in, carrying a laptop bag. Her dark hair framed a serious face, her eyes sharp. "Elena, this is Rachel Delgado," Camilla said. "Investigative journalist. One of the best in the city." Rachel shook Elena's hand firmly. "I've been following your case since last night, and I believe you. But believing isn't enough. We need proof. The kind of proof they can't twist or deny." Elena studied her. Journalists were a gamble. Some wanted truth, others wanted a headline. But Rachel's steady eyes reminded her of something she had once seen in young detectives, the hunger for justice. "What do you know so far?" Elena asked. Rachel opened her laptop. On the screen were articles and court records. "Do you remember Julian Cortez, the barber from Pinewood Estates? He was arrested at Riverside Mall 3 months ago. They claimed he stole cologne from a department store. He swore he was innocent. But the security guard and Officer Salazar both signed statements. He couldn't afford a lawyer, so he pled guilty. He's been stuck on probation ever since, paying hundreds every month to a private company." Elena leaned closer. A private company? Rachel nodded. Stephen Delgado's company, New Horizons Supervision Services. They run probation in partnership with the city. Every person who goes through the system becomes their customer. And most of those people? Arrested at Riverside Mall. Camilla's jaw tightened. It's a pipeline. The mall, the security guards, the officers, they feed people into the system. The company makes money. The mall executives keep their record of strict security, and people like Vaughn get promotions for high arrest numbers. Elena sat back, her stomach twisting. The humiliation she endured yesterday suddenly looked like a piece of something much bigger. So I wasn't the first, and I won't be the last. Rachel nodded grimly. You just happen to be the one they picked on who has a badge. The weight of those words sank deep. Eleanor rubbed her temples. We need evidence. Videos, documents, anything that shows this isn't random. Rachel closed the laptop. I can get that, but it won't be easy. People are scared. Vaughn and Salazar aren't just cops, they're enforcers. Anyone who speaks risks losing their job, or worse. Camilla looked at Elena. We need to start with the people. Witnesses from yesterday. That girl who recorded the arrest, what was her name? Elena's memory flashed back to the young face in the mall crowd. Marissa Cruz. She couldn't have been more than 16, maybe 17. She looked determined. Rachel scribbled the name down. If we find her, her video could blow holes in Vaughn's report. Elena exhaled slowly. Then, that's where we start. That evening, Elena and Camilla drove to Pinewood Estates, the neighborhood where Marissa lived. The sun was setting, painting the sky in dull orange. Children played on the sidewalks. Parents sat on porches. The scent of grilled food lingered in the air. They knocked on the door of a small apartment. Marissa herself opened it, her phone still in her hand. She recognized Elena immediately. You, Marissa whispered. You're the woman from the mall. Elena nodded. Yes, and I need your help. Marissa's eyes darted nervously to her mother, who stood behind her, but then she pulled up her phone. I didn't stop recording. I got the whole thing. From the moment they grabbed you until they shoved you into the car. She pressed play. The video was shaky but clear. Vaughn's aggressive tone, Clara Mendoza's false accusation, Elena's calm words. The crowd's gasp when she announced she was a captainate was all there. Camilla's eyes widened. This changes everything. Rachel leaned in. This isn't just defense. This is evidence of profiling, excessive force, false arrest. If this goes public, it could ignite the city. Marissa's mother spoke softly. But what if they come after her? She's just a kid. Elena crouched to Marissa's eye level. They will try to scare you. They may call you names, maybe worse. But what you have here is powerful. It can protect others. No one will believe me without people like you. Marissa's lips trembled, but she nodded. I'll help. Later that night, back at Elena's home on Maple Street, the weight of it all pressed down. She sat by her kitchen window, staring at the city lights. For the first time since this nightmare began, she felt a spark of hope. But hope was dangerous. She knew Vaughn wouldn't let this slide. Her phone buzzed. A message with no name, no number. Drop this or pay the price. Elena's stomach turned cold. She looked out into the quiet street. A black SUV idled 2 houses down, its headlights dimmed. She couldn't see the driver, but she could feel the eyes watching. Her mind raced. This wasn't just about a false arrest anymore. This was war. She whispered to herself, steady and certain. If they think I'll back down, they picked the wrong woman. The morning sun rose over Manhattan, but Elena Marquez hadn't slept. The threat from the night before still sat in her phone, glowing like a wound. Drop this or pay the price. She had read it over and over, weighing her next move. But retreat was never an option. By noon, she was walking into Jefferson City Hall, her blazer pressed, her badge pinned where everyone could see it. Her hands trembled slightly, but her stride was firm. She was carrying something more powerful than fear-proof. Camila Ortiz was already waiting, along with journalist Rachel Delgado. Behind them, Marissa Cruz and her mother sat nervously, clutching the phone that held the unedited footage of Elena's arrest. "You're sure about this?" Camilla whispered. Elena nodded. "If we don't stop them now, they'll keep doing this to everyone." The council chamber was full, buzzing with reporters, activists, and ordinary citizens. Signs reading justice for Elena and stop profiling lined the walls. At the front sat Mayor Anthony Collins, shifting in his chair, looking more worried than powerful. Next to him, members of the city council, faces tight with unease. And there, lounging with forced arrogance, was Officer Vaughn. His jaw clenched when he saw Elena enter, but he didn't move. Beside him sat Officer Salazar and mall manager Clara Mendoza. They were whispering, eyes darting nervously. The mayor struck the gavel. "We will hear community concerns today." First speaker, Captain Elena Marquez. Gasps spread through the chamber. Phones were raised, cameras focused. Elena walked to the podium, each step steady. She set down a folder, her voice strong. "My name is Captain Elena Marquez. 2 weeks ago, I walked into Riverside Mall to buy a gift for my niece. I walked out in handcuffs, accused of theft, humiliated in front of strangers, and assaulted by officers who never once asked for identification." A murmur rippled through the crowd. Elena continued, "This is not about one arrest. This is about a system that feeds false arrests into private contracts, trapping citizens in probation cycles they can't escape. And I have proof." She lifted Marissa's phone, projecting the video onto the chamber screen. The footage played the false accusation, Vaughn's aggression, Salazar's silence. The moment Eleanor revealed her badge, gasps echoed, followed by shouts of anger. Council members leaned forward, watching intently. The mayor dabbed his forehead with a handkerchief. Elena continued, "This isn't just me. Dozens of people, men, women, children have been victims of the same scheme. All tied to Riverside Mall, all forced into probation run by New Horizon Supervision Services, owned by the same family that owns the mall." Rachel Delgado stepped forward, holding documents, bank statements, contracts, emails showing payments between the mall and probation company, signed by executives and approved by city officials. Gasps grew louder. Reporters typed furiously. Elena's voice dropped, heavy with emotion. "This isn't policing. This is business, a business built on pain, humiliation, and racism." The chamber erupted in applause, but not everyone clapped. Vaughn stood, his face red. "Lies. All of it." He stormed toward the podium. "You assaulted me that day, Marquez, and you'll pay for it." But before he could reach her, 2 uniformed officers stepped in his path. They weren't just any officers, Elena recognized them. Men she had mentored years ago. Their voices were firm. "Sit down, Vaughn. It's over." Vaughn's face twisted. "You'll regret this." The chamber exploded with noise. Reporters shouted questions. Protesters chanted justice. Justice. And then came the twist. From the back of the chamber, a familiar voice spoke into a microphone. "Actually, Officer Vaughn, you're the one who'll regret it." Elena turned sharply. It was Lieutenant Mark Alvarez, her former colleague, the same man she had once suspected of leaking information. Her chest tightened. What was he doing here? Alvarez stepped forward, holding a thick file. "For weeks, I played along, pretended to be part of your cover-up, pretended to look the other way. But while you threatened her, I was collecting every piece of evidence." He dropped the file onto the clerk's desk with a heavy thud. "Every report you falsified, every bribe you took, every deal you cut with mall executives. It's all here." The room fell silent for a beat. Vaughn's mouth opened and closed, stunned. Clara Mendoza clutched her bag, her face pale. Salazar shifted in his chair, looking sick. Alvarez's voice cut through. "Justice isn't about protecting friends. It's about protecting the people. And today, the truth comes out." The crowd erupted into cheers. Elena stared at Alvarez, shock and relief mingling inside her. For days, she had thought she was alone. She wasn't. He had been working in the shadows, waiting for the right moment. State investigators, who had been quietly observing now, moved in. They cuffed Vaughn, Salazar, and Clara Mendoza on the spot. The mayor tried to excuse himself, but agents blocked his way. His signature was all over the contracts. For the first time in weeks, Elena felt her chest loosen. But Alvarez leaned closer, his words just for her. "They'll try to replace them. The system will fight back. But today, we struck the first blow." Elena nodded, her eyes wet. "And it won't be the last." Outside, the crowd of protesters cheered as Vaughn and the others were led away in handcuffs. Reporters shouted questions, cameras flashed, chants filled the air. Justice for Elena, justice for all. Elena stepped out onto the city hall steps. For once, the weight of her badge felt light. She raised her voice, speaking not just to the crowd but to the city. "This fight was never about me. It was about everyone who has been silenced, humiliated, and broken by a system that profits from injustice. Today we proved that the truth cannot be buried, and tomorrow we keep fighting." The roar of the crowd shook the square. People hugged. Strangers cried together. Phones lit up the night sky. And as Elena stood there, the twist still fresh in her mind that the ally she doubted was the one who saved her, she realized something powerful. Justice wasn't just served today. It had been reclaimed. Dear viewers, what a story this has been. From humiliation inside a mall to uncovering a system built on corruption, Captain Elena Marquez showed us what courage truly looks like. She stood when it was easier to stay silent, and because of that, justice was finally served. But remember, this is more than just a story. It's a reminder that truth always finds a way, even when the world tries to bury it. Before you go, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and drop a comment telling us where in the world you are watching from. Because tomorrow's story is one you don't want to miss.